This is a Paxon School Counseling Department presentation geared towards helping you to understand the community service requirement for graduation, as well as get the facts on how you can document that information. So the first thing to explore is, why do community service in the first place? Well, one reason is because it is the right thing to do. You should want to contribute to your society as a whole and make a difference either on a local level or globally. It allows you to learn new skills and meet new people. It also fulfills requirements for the Bright Future scholarships, and it can be seen as something that is seen in a good light when you are applying for colleges and universities or scholarships, because there are some scholarships that require community service. All students at Paxon must have a minimum of 75 hours of community service prior to graduation. Now, for students that are in the IB program, they have a requirement called CAS, and CAS stands for Creativity Activity Service. Because they have this requirement, Paxon waives the 75-hour minimum requirement for graduation. However, because hours are required for Bright Futures, students still need to document at least 75 hours of community service in order to be eligible for a Bright Future scholarship. But that 75 hours can be taken from some of the service that they do within their CAS requirement. For further details on that, come see me, Mrs. Culpepper. So what are the community service requirements for Bright Futures? For the Bright Futures Scholarship Program, there are two tiers. The first one is the Florida Academic Scholars, and that requires 100 hours of service. And there's also the Florida Medallion Scholars, which is 75 hours of community service. Any community service hours can be gained or done during 9th through 12th grade. All of that can be counted. And even the summer prior to 9th grade, community service hours performed during that time may also count, as long as it meets approval from your counselor. So how do you start with community service? The first thing you want to do is to identify some type of a social problem. And that could be, for example, if you have a concern about the environment, the health and safety of others, or the quality of living for a group of individuals. Something of a social issue or concern you should identify. Next, you want to develop a plan. So this helps you to think about how you're going to address that social problem and how you're going to explain it to others. And then after you've completed your service, what you're going to do is evaluate your experience, and that's done during the reflection part of what's required for community service. So this is how you document it. For Paxon, we have a set of community service forms, and there's 3 sheets involved. The first one is a pre-approval form, and that can be brought to the school counseling office, and any of the counselors can sign off on it. So you don't have to make an appointment just to see your counselor. Any of the counselors can approve your community service activity, and if we're not available, you can just leave it at the front desk, and either our records clerk or our school counseling department secretary, she will make sure that one of the counselors gets it and returns that pre-approval form to you. The next form is your log sheet. And so this is the form that, as you are completing that community service, you would make sure that you're signing off on the dates, the times, and getting all of that signed before you bring in the information back to Paxon. So this is what you would bring in with the total amount of hours that you have completed. And then the last piece is that reflection form. So you are going to simply look over this information, have a reflection of your experience, complete this, and this, along with the log form, gets turned in to the school counseling office. So what counts as community service? If you want to be sure that what you're going to do is going to count towards your community service requirement, always make sure that you check with your counselor first. That's why we have the pre-approval form. If you don't get that done, we can't guarantee that it's going to count. So keep in mind that service may be completed at the school or in the community. Service can be performed on your own time. So there are some activities that we have here at Paxon that even though they are during the school day, they can still count towards community service. For instance, if you are a tutor in the learning lab, that is something that takes place during the school day, during lunchtime, but it can also count for community service. Students must not be paid for their service, and that includes not only monetarily, but with grades. You cannot be paid. Fundraising for nonprofit organizations or charities will count towards community service, the time spent raising funds for that. And just remember, service should provide some type of a meaningful experience. It's not supposed to just be mundane tasks, just used to count hours. Now, what does not count as community service? Any service for your family, any service for a profit-making organization, except for some institutions like hospitals or the Humane Society. Any service that is a result of disciplinary action, and that includes anything taken by the school or courts. Another thing that may not count for community service is anything that promotes a particular religious or political viewpoint. Vacation Bible School, we get this a lot because it is considered proselytizing. Vacation Bible School falls under that area with things promoting a particular religion. Babysitting, clerical work, that's just a menial task. That's not going to be something that counts. Teaching or coaching for a profit-making organization. Working in a church nursery, or participation in varsity or junior varsity athletics, including being a team manager or the regularly scheduled band and chorus performances. Those are not going to count for community service. So it's just some things to remember about community service. When in doubt, ask your counselor. Don't ask your friend, ask your counselor, because we are the ones that have to sign off on it. For-profit organizations equals no service. Sometimes they might mean well, but organizations might offer community service for students doing menial tasks. It's called free labor, and it's not going to count for community service. Also, again, community service activities should not be just mundane things. They should actually be meaningful. We should be able to see how students are reflecting and learning from what they are doing. And also, please make sure that you complete and submit all necessary documentation to your counselor. So, we encourage you to turn in those community service forms as soon as possible. You have until the first week of May during your senior year to turn in any documentation. So even if you're a senior, if you did something in 9th grade and you didn't turn it in, as long as those forms are completed, you can come in and turn it in prior to May of your senior year. Hope this presentation has been helpful, and again, if you have any additional questions or concerns about community service, please come into the school counseling office and one of the counselors may assist you.